Hello listeners, you are listening to The Wounded Healer. I welcome you with open arms as I speak on another topic of interest for a lot of people and for myself. I have the lived experience of being not only a counselor but a mother, and added on to that knowledge I've experienced inner childhood wounds and have clients who talk about their inner childhood wounds and how it affects them till today. I have worked in childcare, and amongst other qualifications that I have also completed, I have completed a diploma in early childhood education and care, and although I acknowledge that possessing qualifications are great, but they won't equate to much if you don't understand and embrace what you've learned and apply it in a practical sense, or better still, to actually have lived experiences that complement the new knowledge that you have gained through your education. The inner child is an aspect of us that we have living deep within us on a subconscious level. And in more ways than one, how we were raised in our childhood between 0 to 6 or 7 years old is vital in what happens to us as adults. It concerns John Bowlby's attachment theory of children, and though I will leave you to research Bowlby's research in greater detail, it is generally to do with different attachment styles in relation to the parent-child relationship, and those attachment styles will in turn affect our future relationships and how secure or insecure we are with significant others, and it relates to our trust issues as well, or will result in all kinds of problems that we may have to face in the future. There are different categories of attachments. For example, comparisons with a child having a very secure, loving, trusting relationship or attachment to a parent or parents would be in grave contrast, very different with a child with insecure attachment, putting it simply. I'm not going to be giving a lecture here, but just a simple talk on what I have seen, experienced, and know. And hopefully, if you are a parent or hoping to be one, you can or will understand your child or children better and try to become a better parent with the humble information that I'm about to impart. So take what resonates and leave the rest behind. Everyone is different, and thus you may not agree, and that's all good as well. But if you find rationale behind what I'm going to say, then please take heed and do what's best for your child as you equip yourself with more knowledge. It's never too late as long as you are still a parent. It just may be harder depending on how old your children are. But trust me, they will be grateful to you if you are becoming a more conscious parent. Children, especially little ones, are still little people with feelings and emotions. They are obviously not equipped with life experiences and do not know much. In fact, they are what I like to refer to as tabula rasa, or blank slates, which you as a parent can help shape. They still should be respected as little people, and we as parents or budding parents need to understand this first and foremost and accept that we are responsible for their well-being and in shaping their consciousness to prepare them adequately to face the future. One of the most important lessons I've learned is to acknowledge their emotions and feelings. Obviously, they will not be able to emotionally regulate themselves without being taught how to. They will act in accordance to what they are feeling and react or respond to others in a very raw manner, which we adults have learned to curb due to social norms in learning and conditioning. What is important, though, is understanding that they feel what they feel and cannot help what they feel. And it's vital to acknowledge what they are feeling, whether it's sadness, frustration, anger, fear, etc., and to help them understand that it's okay to feel those emotions and that it's natural, but to teach them how to process their emotions and to react in a better way by giving them a few options of how they may deal with their emotions and the various consequences that will result depending on their choice of actions. Obviously, it's all about age appropriateness on how we respond and teach them, and how they in turn will learn in relation to their age and development, and with both those aspects comes maturity, meaning simpler responses for younger children and more thoughtful, emotionally appropriate responses as they grow and mature. Once a child's feelings are acknowledged, they will gain a sense of self, a sense of security and belonging, and know that their inner emotions have been validated and that they are important enough to have been heard. As they go along, that's how they will continue to develop self-worth and confidence, to know that they are not only loved but respected. And in turn, they will grow up being able to emotionally regulate themselves. However, if their emotions and feelings are neglected, and they are told to either stop feeling what they are feeling, or worse still, they are labeled as being too sensitive, too stupid, too hard to handle, too lazy, etc., it will then begin to help them embrace certain labels. And they will become what they are told, and will either feel inadequate and will definitely lose their inner self-worth. I used to remember a time when my children were younger and my husband would shout at them for doing something wrong, and they would cry and he would shush them up and scream at them to stop crying. I had to advise him to stop doing this because effectively he had just shouted at our children and therefore had hurt their feelings. And a child's natural reaction would be to cry. I explained to my husband that it was natural for our sons to express their emotions of sadness through crying, and that it was okay to allow them to do so and not to get them to suppress their feelings. Feelings need to be expressed. However, for me personally, I would prefer to teach them to express their feelings verbally and not through throwing things around. It's also important to explain to a child once the incident has finished and everyone has calmed down why he or she was told off and why you got upset as a parent, and to explain that it was the behavior and not the child that was of concern. And it might also mean that as an adult that you might have regretted shouting at the child or saying certain words that you end up apologizing for. And this develops a child's respect for you, as well as teaches the child that even as an adult or parent, we can and should apologize when we act inappropriately. It is only by watching our behaviors that children learn, and it is by communication and listening to one another that we develop children who are mentally healthy and able to express themselves and regulate their behavior and emotions all through growing up till adulthood. No one is perfect, and it's totally natural to make mistakes, but it's when we can admit to our mistakes that it shows our own vulnerabilities, and that's when children also learn about the concept about being vulnerable in a safe, loving environment. Showing a young child how to identify with their various emotions is easy through cards or books which state each emotion if you find that you should need some help with visualizing emotions and explaining emotions. Even drawing some simple expressions that show basic emotions of anger, sadness, fear, happiness, or shock can help a younger child understand emotions and how it's okay to also take time out to feel and process emotions, as some people or children need time out to process, and that's normal and natural to do as well. I'll tell you a story of a young girl who is now 12 years old and who is very quiet and introverted when once upon a time she wasn't like that when she was younger. I used to enjoy listening to her mother tell me how she would be so creative in watching a video and then following the dance choreography, or she would be so happy and willing to surprise her parents and brother, doing everything she could for their birthdays, from creating and making a card herself and getting her other members of the family to write their wishes a day before. She loved surprising her parents or sibling early in the morning with a decorated room which she took the trouble to do herself the night before. She used to get help from her dad or mum, depending on whose birthday it was going to be, to buy something nice from her for the other parent or sibling, just to ensure that they were surprised and happy for their birthday. This same girl has turned sullen and quiet and doesn't engage as much anymore with her family. And the excuse could be for many to say that she's getting into puberty and becoming moody. But I can see something else happening. She was never validated for what she did. Her mother especially didn't tell her how proud she was of her, and instead, as years went by, began to consistently pick on her and say out loud how she was like a mouse who couldn't speak, yet never encouraged her kindly and lovingly to do so. Unfortunately, I watched this process from the sidelines, and though I tried to talk to her mother, she could never understand, preferring to continue her relationship with her one and only daughter the same way, and not realizing that her daughter had changed so much and that she could possibly lose her in time to come as she becomes more reclusive and unexpressive. Recently, the same child has now stopped doing all she had done before and is no longer the same, preferring to do very little, which to me is such a shame. Not validating a child is like not accepting who she or he is as a person with their own identity. It's even worse giving a child mixed signals of how to behave and what to do to get their parents' approval. Often children who seek approval end up being adults who are on a constant quest of seeking approval and validation from others. They grow up not having a sense of identity and self-worth, and often forego their identity or unique sense of self and their own personal truth in order to continually fit in with the crowd, in order to be liked and to belong. They find that they become people pleasers in their adulthood, preferring to be sheep along with the herd than to be able to stand alone proudly, just being able to speak their own truth. Unfortunately, it all starts from childhood. Now, there is a balance that we should all attain to when caring for children. That's the balance of being strong with them when we need to in order to correct their inappropriate behavior, but also to love and to be able to give them praise, love, and reassurance that they have approval to be themselves. You cannot be your children's friend at the same time till they gain the maturity to understand that friendship and that there are boundaries whereby when you need to parent them, the friendship stops and the parent steps in. I've seen too many cases from being a counselor of people who were either too hard with their children till they ended up rebelling and turning wild once they tasted freedom, or parents were too easygoing, trusting their children too much, giving them too much freedom and not enough discipline, and the children ending up getting into trouble, becoming involved with the wrong groups and becoming delinquents. There is a balance, and it's hard to define that balance, more so when parents are tired and stressed by finances, their own relationships with their partner, or other circumstances. With work, etc., parenting could take a back step. But ultimately, we as parents need to take the responsibility and blame if we don't like what we are seeing in relation to our children's behaviors. We can't blame them, as we are the adults who are responsible for teaching, facilitating, and communicating with them to answer their questions, to help them understand and navigate life as they experience it. I'm saying if your child becomes a delinquent, whilst you may not always be totally to blame, you definitely need to take some form of responsibility, because there were issues that were undetected, or actions that could have been prevented, or concerns that you perhaps were not aware of that could have facilitated them through. Personally, as a parent, I feel it's my responsibility how my children feel, behave, and where I have failed, I will take appropriate actions to rectify as much as I can. I will not stand by the side and blame them, and will not say it's too late, because it's never too late to love or care or to become a parent. Yes, you may need to reparent differently and communicate, or start to communicate differently, but ultimately the buck starts and stops with you to do your part as well. Another saying that I love is that it takes a village to raise a child. Sometimes it takes more than parents. It may take other extended family members, good family friends, or someone from the community to help, but for heaven's sake, do what must be done to ensure that your children develop a healthy well-being. I've started to ask my children of late about whether they are happy and not to take for granted whether they feel happy, and to talk about their interests and their friendships and virtually anything that I can get out of them, simply because I realize that I have been too busy and have neglected them of late and would like to get to know them better or catch up with them, as now one is 18 and the other has turned 21. However, I have also been keeping an eye on them and have been asking them where and with whom they are going out with, because I understand that the age that they are is not the age that they are in their heads, meaning it's not age that matters, but with me it's the maturity that you can detect as a parent by watching their behavior and actions. Look, my children and our parenting styles are far from perfect, and you may completely disagree, and that's fine, as long as you believe and know that your children are mentally happy and emotionally coping well. The concepts of early child education and care that I formally learned later after they grew up was something I regretted knowing only recently, when if I had known prior, when they were young, I could have been a better mother. But to realize and to be aware and to want to change is the key, as children do acknowledge and recognize what you are trying to do as long as you keep communicating with them. And sometimes you just have to respectfully agree to disagree on matters which are not that threatening, but to stand firm and strong with matters that are non-negotiable, that you know better as an adult, having significantly more life experiences, that if you do not guide them adequately, there will be dire consequences. Trust me, I have seen too much of that happening with clients and close friends. I'm also interested in knowing and finding out how to parent better, how to communicate better, as personally I am on a never-ending quest for self-improvement and improvement in various roles as a wife, mother, sister, friend, cousin, godmother, auntie, etc. I may fail from time to time, but it doesn't stop me from trying again and again till I succeed. Love your children as they are a product of you. However, also realize that the cord has been cut once they come out of the womb, and now that they are individuals, treat them as such. Something my children have taught me is to try to not compare them with other children, as they could also compare me with other parents, and believe me when I say that there are much better parents out there than you and I am, and we just have to accept our relationships with our children, but not to stop there, and to continue to improve our relationships. I'm assuming that I'm talking to parents or would-be parents who are concerned about their parenting skills and their children, and if you find any of my tips helpful, I'm happy that I've managed to help in some way. But if you find my content unhelpful, then please try another channel where you might get better results for your learning, as I may not be the person who resonates with your parenting personality or style, and that's okay too. I get it. In essence, I've seen too many wounded inner child clients, including myself, as once upon a time I was that child too. So I'm on a quest to help families and people who are also wounded to heal, and people who are parents and who are about to become parents to just be more aware that there is so much more to child rearing. Emotional education is not something that all parents are aware of, and like me, I had to discover new knowledge that would benefit me as a parent and would in turn benefit my children, and thus my aim and contribution in life is to bring a little insight to those of you who might not be as aware yet, to benefit your lives and mostly your families. Every family is different. Develop your own patterns of thoughts, beliefs, and values that pertain to your individual family. Be careful, though, about the way you were taught that may no longer resonate with the you that you've become. And the you that you've become accustomed to, and somehow still believe that you need to continue this intergenerational pattern of parenting, which may not suit your own family, is not right in itself as well, and you may need the courage to handle or do things differently. Think about it, and for people who are still handling the wounds of their inner child, please do things differently so that your wounds are not passed on to your children. If you've listened to me till now, congratulations, you must have a lot of patience, and I hope that my simple wisdom helps. And if it does, please like, share, and subscribe. I sincerely wish you all the best and all the success as you go along your journey of parenthood. It's not an easy journey, but it's an exciting one, and one that will teach you as much as it will teach your children. Thank you for your time, and if this helps one parent or a few, then as I always say, I would have achieved my goal.